Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kadeem Morris, an attorney at Community Legal Services, and welcome back to Tenant Tuesdays at 2. This is our weekly conversation on topics relating to tenants in the city of Philadelphia. Tenant Tuesdays at 2 is made possible, of course, by the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project. Each week we cover different topics, so come back weekly to learn more about resources and services that are available to you throughout Philadelphia. You can also go to our website, phillytenant.org for personalized advice or links to representation, or you can call the Philly Tenant hotline at 267-443-2500. As a reminder, Spanish translation and interpretation services are available by clicking the link at the bottom of the screen that says interpretation. It should look like a globe, and then you can select the Spanish language. You won't be able to hear the English part of the presentation, but you will hear it primarily in Spanish. Today, I am joined by our wonderful PEP partners. We have Sherry Thomas from Legal Clinic for the Disabled, Jacob Spidell from Senior Law, Elizabeth Charlowski from Philadelphia VIP, Lex Harris from Turn, Tyler Young from Clarify, and Mr. Kay Greenberg from the Housing Unit here at CLS. So the purpose of today's conversation is to focus in on the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project. The project was created by a collaborative effort between City Council, the Mayor's Office, and our partners, Community Legal Services, Clarify, Legal Clinic for the Disabled, Senior Law Center, Turn, and Philadelphia VIP in 2017 to address the eviction crisis that was happening in our city, and with a recognition that evictions are a cause of poverty, and also if we can address the eviction issue, we can somehow reduce the number of people who are living in or continue to live in poverty. So today we are going to have a wonderful conversation where we talk with our PEP partners, make you aware of the services that they provide and why you should support PEP or come in and seek services under PEP. So, hi everyone, hope you can hear me. We are going to start with Jacob from Senior Law. So Jacob, tell us a bit about, I'm gonna throw the hardball question to you. Why was PEP created, since you have been in this process from the beginning?
So PEP was created as a collaboration between various legal services agencies in Philadelphia because the City Council of Philadelphia and the various organizations here recognized the need for a team effort to help tenants who were really facing an eviction crisis. Philadelphia has large numbers of evictions and a lot of tenants who have insecure housing. And we've seen that tenants benefit from the services that were ultimately provided through the PEP program, especially legal representation, financial counseling, and other sorts of assistance finding resources. So that's why PEP was created, was to help tenants stay in their homes and respond to the crisis that was seen throughout the city.
Sounds like a noble cause. Where does your agency, Senior Law, fit into the PEP program?
So Senior Law Center, we're a nonprofit organization founded in 1978 that helps people age 60 and over with legal issues. So since we were founded, we've served more than 400,000 older Philadelphians with our various diverse programs. As part of PEP, we help tenants age 60 and over with all sorts of landlord-tenant disputes. And that includes helping people who haven't had evictions filed against them, but are having problems with the condition of their property, trying to get legal advice about what to do, as well as people in administrative hearings and people who've had evictions filed against them, and we represent them in court. Beyond what we do for PEP, we also help people age 60 and over throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So we have a legal helpline that answers legal questions from tenants and people with other types of questions in every county of the state. People can reach by calling 1-877 727-7529. And as a legal services organization for seniors, we can help people who have a combination of legal problems. So if someone is a tenant who has a problem with their landlord, and they also have other problems, we can work with them a little more holistically. And we address problems including elder abuse, family violence and financial exploitation, home ownership and foreclosure, the rights of grandparents raising grandchildren, consumer protection, healthcare issues, advanced planning, wills, powers of attorney, and civil rights. And we have offices here in Philadelphia, as well as Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delaware County, and Chester County.
So it seems like senior law covers all of the issues that could be affected by someone in the demographic of 60 plus. So from your organization's perspective, why is it important to approach the issue of evictions from a collaborative standpoint, i.e. working with other partners to basically provide holistic services to tenants?
So we provide legal services to tenants, but legal services certainly are not the only services that can benefit a tenant. For example, we work with Clarify on financial counseling. We'll hear more about that later. But that's not our area of expertise, and people can really benefit from a lawyer to provide legal advice and a financial counselor to give financial counseling help. And it's also helpful to work with other partners who may have knowledge or expertise that we can draw on.
I agree. I think it's wonderful when we can all partner together. So how has PEP improved your ability to serve clients maybe where they are, or clients who you may not typically be able to serve on your traditional intake model?
So as part of PEP, we participate in the Lawyer of the Day program. And the Lawyer of the Day program involves sending lawyers to court the day of eviction hearings and having the opportunity for tenants to get a lawyer at court the day of their hearing. Now, this is never the ideal way to get a lawyer. If you know you have an eviction hearing coming up, it's always better to call a senior law center or to call the PEP intake line and get a lawyer in advance. But if a tenant gets to court and doesn't have a lawyer, the Lawyer of the Day program allows them to get a lawyer. Senior Law Center is a partner in the Lawyer of the Day program, and that is the only program where Senior Law Center ever represents people who are under the age of 60. As the Lawyer of the Day, I meet tenants who are coming to court and may not be 60 years of age or older. And so we've expanded our ability to represent tenants through PEP because we're part of the Lawyer of the Day program. And we also are part of this combined intake model where there's one phone number that tenants can call for legal services and then be sent to the appropriate legal services agency.
So it seems like we've been able to streamline at least the process of clients getting to legal services by using the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project and the streamlined intake process. Can you give us an idea of what eviction defense looked like, let's say for a pro se tenant prior to PEP being implemented?
Well, that was before my time, but from what I've heard, before PEP was implemented, pro se tenants face some of the same challenges that pro se tenants face today, but only more so and with fewer resources. So in municipal court, roughly 90% of landlords have lawyers. They recognize that you really need a lawyer to go to court. Tenants, especially before PEP, overwhelmingly went to court without lawyers. So less than 10% of tenants went to court with lawyers. And it was difficult for tenants to find lawyers. So they're walking into court not knowing their legal rights, not having anyone to advise them about how to defend themselves, and no one to help them stand up to the other side, which the vast majority of the time did have a lawyer. And so they were at a significant disadvantage. And it was hard for tenants to know where to go for legal services because there were organizations out there, but there was no central portal like there is now for PEP. And if they got to court without a lawyer, they didn't have the option of a lawyer of the day. They didn't have the benefit of a courtroom navigator, which our partner Turn provides, and you'll hear more about Turn, who helps people understand what's going on under the courtroom, because municipal court for somebody unrepresented going to court is incredibly confusing and chaotic.
I could not agree more. It definitely is a crazy place to be if it's the first time you've been brought to court. And as you pointed out, the availability of resources in a centralized format didn't really exist before PEP. So it's great that all of these agencies could come together and create this or serve this unified process and be able to bring everyone in at the same time. Shari, I wondered if I could bring you into the conversation right now and speak about how Legal Clinic for the Disabled has benefited from being a part of the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project.
Sure, thank you, Kadeem, and thanks for having me on. I'm Shari Thomas. I'm the Housing Director at the Legal Clinic for the Disabled. The Legal Clinic has been a partner with PEP from the inception, from the beginning. And our client population are low-income individuals with physical and mental disabilities. And I want to make clear that we paint the definition of disability as really broad. It's not required that you are receiving Social Security disability or receiving short-term disability payments or anything like that. We do target clients who are receiving treatment for chronic illnesses as well. So that includes diabetes, asthma, COPD, other respiratory conditions, high blood pressure, etc. So really, our services have been generally through our phone intake. We don't have walk-in intake at LCD. However, we had been providing all of our legal services through the phone intake and our medical legal partnerships, which are across the city in different healthcare systems, nurses, clinics, and major hospital systems. One of the ways that PEP has really improved and expanded our services to the community is by being present at the Lawyer of the Day program, where we are able to contact more clients than we would have through our phone intake line or through our MLP services. The other way is that we are part of the landlord tenant hotline. It's open 5 days a week. You know, our general intake prior to COVID was only open 1 day a week. So it's really been helpful for LCD to have increased client contact through that phone line 5 days a week. And, you know, for people with disabilities, sometimes it is difficult to get a lawyer. It can sometimes be difficult to navigate through the court system for a number of reasons. A number of our clients have survived strokes, a number of people who have cognitive processing issues, etc. It's really helpful for those individuals to have lawyers to help communicate needs and help communicate goals and educate about the options that are available.
I think that's very important information. And that brings me to, I think, a more direct question of, I know that both you and Jacob serve populations that are considered especially vulnerable during the pandemic time with the presence of COVID-19. Are there any additional barriers that exist just by the very nature of the landlord tenant or the court process that your clients encounter on a day-to-day basis when they try to engage with the legal system?
Oh, absolutely. And we see it every single day. We have clients who say, I'll give you an example. I met a client through the Lawyer of the Day program who is a survivor of a major car accident. She had a traumatic brain injury, had a lot of difficulty processing and communicating to the court the things that were wrong with the property. The property itself was in total disrepair. During the time of her accident and during the time of her recovery, her landlord stopped making repairs, knowing that she was in a vulnerable position and wouldn't really be able to fight him on them. She exercised her legal rights to withhold her rent. And so by the time she got to court and reached me as the lawyer of the day, what she really needed help was identifying what those defenses were, communicating them clearly to the other side, and reaching a solution that would work. Eventually, what ended up happening was the property was in such disrepair and her landlord was clear that he was not going to repair anything at all. We were able to reach a solution where she was able to keep all of her money and move into a safe and habitable property, and without having this judgment for any money on her record. That's just one example of the type of barrier that our clients may face. We have clients who suffer from asthma, who are particularly vulnerable to mold and other repair issues in the home. Many of our clients come to court with these habitability issues, and because they have immune systems that are compromised, they're particularly vulnerable. If they are a stroke survivor, it's difficult to communicate sometimes. We also serve the deaf and hard of hearing community. So when we go into court with someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, we're able to obtain sign language interpreters and facilitate that process for our clients as well. And even something just basic as accessing rental assistance. I had a client recently who was about to be evicted, and we were able to step in. He needed a lot of support from his care coordinators, but during the time of the eviction, his team was transitioning. And so we were able to step in and intervene with the court, get a postponement on the eviction, and then help him and his team get access to rental resources because they had just come into the case and didn't really understand what was going on.
So I think that cross-competency and the ability to communicate issues that a tenant may have in a way that a lawyer has to articulate them before the court is very important, and it's a barrier that so many people face and don't know how to navigate until they get to court.
Exactly.
So Lex, I would like to bring you into this conversation right now because you serve a very unique role as the Courtroom Navigator. And I would like to talk to you about what you do in that space and how you see the Courtroom Navigator as making the courtroom or the court process better for tenants. Lex, you are muted. There we go.
Sorry about that. Yes, thank you. Thank you for unmuting me. Yes, I'm a navigator. I work for Tenant Union Representative Network, and my primary role with TURN is the navigator in terms of PEP, but TURN also participates under the PEP contract in a variety of different ways. But to discuss the the navigator role, can you rephrase the question?
So I just want you to talk a little about how the presence of a courtroom navigator can shift or remove some of those barriers that myself and Cherry were just talking about for a client, even if they aren't able to get to the point where they get a lawyer in full representation. But what is your role in making the court a more navigatable space for tenants?
Yeah, so similarly to what our kind of greater mission is in terms of just increasing awareness, increasing access to information is a very critical piece of navigating a court system. And so that's why, as Jacob from Senior Law said, you need a lawyer to go to court. And that's the reality in Philadelphia Municipal Court. For some reason or another, it is statistically a fact, so I hesitate on that thought, knowing how courts work And so my role as a navigator is essentially to help the court work a little bit more true to form. The Article 3 of our Constitution created a court, and you don't need a lawyer to go to court. I also am specifically present in Philadelphia Municipal Court in order to assist pro se litigants or parties who don't have an attorney. And so that is my role.
So I think that's critical information, that the Courtroom Navigator plays the role of kind of connecting the tenants or pro se litigants with the resources that are available, whether it's the lawyer of the day or Clarify for financial counseling. But you also spoke about Turn having a sort of different role as a part of PEP, where you guys, I believe, provide classes to tenants and inform them of what their rights are so that they can better prepare themselves to engage in the courtroom process. So can you talk to me a little about what that looks like on your end?
So it's essentially educating folks, primarily tenants, with information on what the law is in writing. And then also, of course, the process, which unfortunately, there's always a gray area. Yes.
So I think that this is a wonderful time to bring Tyler in, who is with Clarify, which is another one of our partner agencies. And Tyler, I kind of want to speak to you about the services that you provide, because I think you're at a unique standpoint. Very often as lawyers, we go into court and we make agreements with tenants where they may agree to pay a certain amount over a certain period of time, but we can't consider the financial aspect of whether or not this is affordable to them. So how does Clarify really help tenants become more financially aware and help them budget, let's say, JBAs and payment arrangements into their day-to-day lives? Tyler, I think you're still muted.
Oh,
there we go.
Can you hear? You can hear me now? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Tyler. I work for Clarify. We're a financial literacy nonprofit located here in Philadelphia. Generally speaking, we do a lot of financial literacy counseling. Credit, budget, saving counseling. We also do housing and, of course, eviction and rental counseling. As far as the PEP program goes, really, my goal here is to try to get to the client before they go and enter into an agreement, and kind of, review a budget with them, give them an idea what would be affordable for them, and see if they can maybe make some budget cuts, if necessary. It doesn't always happen that I'm able to get to them before they go into the agreement room. So I'm also able to work with them afterwards, and maybe we can review the budget and make some cuts to, keep up with that agreement. But yeah, I think, being able to review a budget and kind of understand exactly the story behind your finances before you go and enter that agreement is extremely important.
And how has PEP improved your access to vulnerable client populations? Because we spoke a lot about it being a collaborative process connecting vulnerable tenants or vulnerable client populations with resources. How has it made your job easier or better?
Yeah, so it's kind of made the job a little bit different, I would say, just because this is something we were never involved in previously. We had never really, worked in eviction court. We had obviously referrals with community legal services, but never had worked one-on-one with each other. So it kind of has opened up that referral base between community legal services and myself, also Turn, Senior Law, and all of the partners on PEP. But yeah, we had never really done any sort of work around eviction, so this was all brand new to us. Obviously a learning process, but I think we've started, hammering out the kinks a little bit, and I think it's been, great for Clarify to get involved with this population.
And what are the services, because we spoke a lot about budgeting, what other services does Clarify provide to tenants or clients who may come in contact with the agency?
Yeah, so we offer financial empowerment counseling, which basically consists of budget counseling, credit repair, and credit report counseling. So if you had collections on your credit report or had a lot of debt, we can kind of discuss that. And of course, you know, it's obviously non-fee based, so all educational. And we also offer savings counseling, you know, helping you open up a savings account, you know, work on just, you know, the whole financial picture, along with, you know, the whole 9 yards of financial lifestyle. We do housing counseling, we do pre-purchase counseling, foreclosure prevention counseling. We are also obviously involved in eviction prevention and also preparing clients for getting into a rental. So, you know, figuring out how much money you have to have saved when you do move into a new apartment. You know, what costs are you going to incur as a homeowner or as a renter? You know, so I'd like to say that we cover, you know, pretty much everything your financial lifestyle can, you know, would cover.
That's good information to know. Do you have any idea the number of clients or referrals you've received through the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project?
Yep. So as far as this grant period goes, from July 2019 to now, we've served 112 clients specifically in court, but we also have served hundreds of renters throughout Philadelphia that may need eviction prevention counseling, or you know, maybe just came to us for budget financial counseling, you know, that could be at risk of eviction eventually.
So that's great to know that you've been able to provide these services to tenants and vulnerable people throughout the city of Philadelphia.
Cool, thank you, Kadeem.
No problem. Happy that you're able to be a partner with us. I want to bring Liz from Philadelphia VIP into the conversation, because I know that Philadelphia VIP has a very unique role in the entire PEP program, where you guys get to, don't necessarily show up in court, but you get to connect tenants and clients with pro bono legal counsel. So Liz, tell us a little bit about Philadelphia VIP and how you serve clients.
Sure. So like you said, we're definitely different than the other organizations in that what Philly VIP does is we match cases that we get from our partner organizations. And in cases of eviction, all of our cases come from Community Legal Services. And we match those cases with a volunteer attorney. So last year, we were able to place over 1,000 cases. That's not just eviction cases, but family law cases, probate, wills, all different types of law cases with volunteers. We definitely pull on the resources of our PEP partners. You know, we've had Jacob and Kay give trainings to our volunteers to build their expertise in the landlord-tenant area. But that also means we don't do direct intake of clients like all of our partner agencies do. We only take referrals in cases that they aren't able to handle for one reason or another. We would all love to take on every case that walks in our door, but that's just not possible. And that's where VIP plays an important part, because when an agency can't take on a case, it's possible they may send the case to us. We'll train a volunteer. A lot of our volunteers have an enormous amount of expertise in landlord-tenant law, and they'll represent the tenant in court.
So I think that's great that VIP serves that very important role of connecting pro bono or volunteer counsel with tenants who are in need of assistance and maybe just for capacity issues could not otherwise be helped through the normal stream of PEP. And I think it's important to be able to say, we can provide you with a lawyer on the front end if there's a lawyer today available, but we can also, in advance of that, refer you to private counsel who may have expertise or experience in landlord-tenant issues and want to give back in that way in a recognition of the seriousness of the eviction issue, not just in Philadelphia, but throughout the state, quite frankly. Does VIP provide any other services through the PEP program or to tenants who may have gone through PEP?
Yeah, so we also host petition to vacate clinics. And what those are oftentimes a tenant after an eviction hearing will end up with a judgment on the record, whether that's a money judgment or a judgment for possession. So at these clinics, with which Jacob Spidel leads the training for our volunteers, we train our volunteers to help tenants then vacate or satisfy those judgments so that they're marked satisfied or vacated on the court docket. Unfortunately, the law in Pennsylvania does not allow a sealing of those, but it can help in future rental applications to show that a past judgment was satisfied or vacated.
So I think that's super great. So we can look at PEP as basically covering a tenant or client running through the legal eviction process at every end. You've got the ability to go to turn in advance of a legal issue and get information about your rights and education on how to proceed and enforce those rights. If you come to one of our partner agencies, you can get representation at the Lawyer of the Day program or just through their normal intake streams. Or if they're not able to accommodate you, you can be referred to VIP, and VIP can hopefully place you with pro bono counsel. And we've got Tyler on the financial side, kind of ensuring that vulnerable populations don't become more vulnerable by helping them manage their finances. And at the end of the day, if a tenant can successfully complete a JBA or a court agreement, we've got this wonderful vacate clinic through Philadelphia VIP where we can help to clean up your record in terms of your eviction court record to the best possible stance that it can be and basically attack it from all ends. And I think it's great that you guys have so far in the last year, I think you said roughly 1,000 people have been placed with pro bono counsel, which shows a pretty robust referral process.
Yeah, and that does cover other areas of law outside of just the landlord-tenant cases, but we placed more cases with volunteer attorneys last year than ever before.
So that is super great to hear. I want to shift gears a little and bring in Kay Greenberg, who is one of our lawyers of the day and an attorney at Community Legal Services, to kind of tell us what your role is and what your day-to-day looks like.
Okay, so my role is I serve as one of the lawyer of the days through Community Legal Services, covering the shifts that aren't covered by LCD or Senior Law Center, along with Kadeem and Tom. So my day-to-day is I show up in the morning and hopefully the Courtroom Navigator hooks me up with about 5 people, and I'm able to provide same-day representation if it's something that can be resolved that day. Sometimes it's just about trying to work out a plan that works financially for my client. We work it out that day, and if not, I continue the case and get ready to do kind of a full trial and full rep. And I do a lot of stuff specifically on PHA cases as they're listed on one of the days that I cover.
So I think that's great. From your perspective, I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked, I think, Jacob and at least Sherry. What is the importance of having legal representation in landlord-tenant court?
The importance of having legal representation is the knowledge that I bring. It's not just about tenants not being able to afford rent and then being brought to court. It's also about tenants understanding their rights. It's sometimes about the landlords using the process to evict tenants who have reported them to license and inspections or things like that. So basically the service that I provide is I make sure that the tenant understands their rights, what they are potentially responsible for, what they're not responsible for, and make sure that they don't enter into any agreement they do not fully understand, and for anything that they shouldn't be on the hook for.
Great. And how has PEP strengthened the collaborative process between CLS, Senior Law, Legal Clinic for the Disabled, VIP, Turn, and Clarify? How has it made your job easier, better, or how do Philadelphians really benefit from this program existing?
I mean, I think Philadelphians really benefit from us all collaborating based on the fact that we each bring a different knowledge base to the table. like for example, like being able, we send send each other questions to work through cases occasionally. So I'm able to draw from, for example, Jacob and Sherry's expertise in areas that I'm not as familiar with. We also have meetings in which having all of this spread along larger organizations allows us to potentially identify larger trends and things that potentially siloed organizations wouldn't be able to. Clarify is great because, again, it's about, I've sent many clients to them because it's about making sure that people understand all the financial ramifications of the agreement they're about to enter, and then also are able to be educated in such a way that hopefully helps them moving forward. Like Liz said, I work on the vacate clinics. Vacates are what help people move once they have finished the agreement or met the terms of it. And, you know, Lex and Mary from Turn and the other navigator whose name I'm unfortunately forgetting, you know, they're great. They provide information to people there on the ground. They also help direct people to the services. We'll again sometimes get emails about people off outside off and are able to kind of provide like a real holistic kind of representation more than we would be able to as siloed organizations.
That's great work and great to hear that. So I know from data that has been collected over the past 2.5 years that 95% of the tenants that have been helped through the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project have had successful outcomes. Can you describe for me what those outcomes look like and what's the, if you were to sell PEP, what's the thing that you would sell or the greatest benefit to clients?
I mean, I think it's interesting. It's almost, I think that's almost two questions. If I was going to say what the greatest benefit to clients is, kind of building on what either Lex or Jacob said, forgive me, the court system is fairly opaque and is traditionally the landlords have attorneys and no one is there to explain things to the tenants. So a lot of people, because I've dealt with clients who have been in court before and didn't understand what they were signing or things like that. So we help make sure that people are able to make educated decisions. They understand all of their rights. They also understand all of their risks of the different decisions that they make and are therefore able to make, I never tell a client what to do. I just make sure they understand what's going on and they tell me what they want to do. So I think that that is what we bring to the table in terms of that work. And like I said, that question had 2 points and I lost the other thread. Kadeen, if you want to remind me.
I'm not clear as to what my second point was, but I think you got the most important one out, that PEP really, it empowers a tenant when they walk into the space of municipal court, which can, as you said, be very opaque, be very foreign. And I think even if you've had prior encounters with the court system, the criminal side looks completely different from the landlord-tenant side. So there's really no way to know, well, how do I self-advocate in this space? I've got all of this information that I want someone to hear, but I don't necessarily know how to communicate that information. So having both a courtroom navigator who can point you to a lawyer who can speak with you and speak on your behalf before the court, and then also at the end, if you make an agreement, having someone who can walk you through what that's going to look like on a month-to-month basis on the financial side, or just pulling on various levels of expertise that you get from a shop like CLS, which covers various practice areas. You've got senior law, who has a very specific demographic, but they do a lot of work within that demographic. And then you have LCD, which is Legal Clinic for the Disabled, and they have their own expertise. And disability, or different ability, depending on how you want to phrase it, covers a wide range of issues and several people. So the fact that we're all at the table together collaboratively seems like there's no loss for a tenant to go through that process. So I'm happy that we were able to have this discussion today. I want to invite all of our partners who are on the call right now to share any client success stories or reasons that they have why the PEP program should continue. As I'm sure some or most of you are aware, the budget is being reconsidered and things are kind of being shifted in light of COVID-19. But from just what we've said today, PEP seems like a very vital program that needs to continue, especially in light of significant unemployment numbers that are greater than the prior recession, and just the fact that landlord-tenant court is such a scary space. So if you could share client stories or your pitches or whatever motivates you to be a part of PEP on a regular basis, I'll be happy if you guys could share that with us.
I'll chime in with a general kind of moving back to what you said in the beginning, that PEP really provides a bit of a holistic view in terms of the real issues that come up, although of course being focused on the legal issues and the court, that's the pivotal point that really deprives people with either out a lawyer or otherwise deprived of due process. They need to have that access to the information in terms of what to do, where to go. And I think that it's critical. It's critical this time. You know, it's bringing a lot to the forefront, and just in the in everyone's individual situations, but in specifically the situation of housing, you can look to your home as a place of residence. That a lot of people will be at risk of being ousted of the housing without any, you know, clear protections, is a real risk. And so I think PEP is critical.
I completely agree with you that housing vulnerability does trickle down to other areas of your life. So having the ability or the best ability to preserve your housing is critical at this time. Sherry, you were going to add some remarks, so I will invite you to do so now.
Yes, thanks, Kadeem. I just want to emphasize that the PEP program really addresses issues that are not just about rent. And, you know, we'll see in these conversations in the coming weeks, yes, people are falling behind on their rent. Sometimes that is the issue. However, having a lawyer in court addresses so much more than that. Rental assistance is crucial to solving problems, but it's not the only component. And to echo what others have said, taking a holistic approach to our clients' problems and resolving them is really, I think, the only way to make sure people stay safe in habitable housing and suitable housing, especially during this crisis.
Thank you, Sherry. Tyler, Jacob, anyone with anything else to add? I see that Jacob has unmuted himself, so I will let you speak now.
Yes, so I want to agree with Sherry that, you know, there's sometimes a perception that the problem with tenants in Philadelphia is that they don't pay their rent. And the only thing that can be done is to have them pay their rent, and maybe rental assistance can help. But there's really a lot more to the eviction crisis in Philadelphia than tenants not paying rent. And you can see that roughly half the evictions filed in the Philadelphia courts filed by the landlords say there's an issue other than non-payment of rent. And even the ones where the landlord just says the only issue is non-payment of rent, you look into it and the landlord hasn't been doing repairs or hasn't cleaned up the lead in the property and children are getting lead poisoning, or the landlord is not accommodating the tenant's disability. There are all sorts of other things going on. Now, I got a call from a tenant last Friday who was withholding rent because of problems with the condition of the property. And the landlord was threatening to illegally shut off the electricity of the property. And the reason was, I looked, and the landlord didn't have his license. And the law in Philadelphia is if you don't have a license, you're not entitled to collect rent, and you can't legally evict tenants. The landlord knew this, and so they were threatening to do something completely illegal. And the tenant didn't know that was illegal. And this tenant, he depends on an oxygen machine every day. If his electricity is shut off, he won't be able to breathe. And so I was able to talk to him about what his rights are, get him in contact with the electric company, make sure that they know there's a tenant with a disability in the property. And that was news to the electric company, because the landlord was reporting this property as a single family residence and not telling the electric company there were tenants there. And the tenant wouldn't have had any of this information without talking to a lawyer. So it's not just about non-payment of rent, and there really are rights that the bad landlords are trying to trick tenants into thinking they don't have.
Yeah, I think that piece about the cases not being about non-payment of rent and us serving a real critical role in empowering tenants about what their rights are and how they should navigate the court system and what they are entitled to, because the law is what the law is, and tenants should be equally able as landlords to enforce all aspects of the law when they walk into court, if they do end up in a court process. So I think we do serve that really critical role. Liz or Tyler, I'm going to give you both an opportunity to, Liz is unmuted, so I'll let Liz speak first.
I just wanted to say, I mean, this is a really, really tough time for a lot of people. So many people are unemployed, on the verge of losing their housing, and with the budget, there have to be cuts, but this can't be the area that's cut. I mean, Philadelphia is a city of renters. People now more than ever during the COVID pandemic need legal representation for all the reasons that my colleagues have named. There are landlords who want to do the right thing and might not know that it's illegal for a tenant to withhold their rent until repairs are made. And an attorney can be very useful in the process of negotiating, or even just the phillytenant.org website, which is an amazing resource for so many people. These are all things that Philadelphia needs, and we need funding to do. So yeah, I think it's an important time to keep tenants' rights on the forefront when it comes to talking about budget.
Great, thank you, Liz. Tyler? Tyler, we cannot hear you for some weird reason.
Here. Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Oh man, sorry. Second time's the charm, or third time's the charm now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I actually do have one story. It's not quite as extreme as Jacob's story is, but it does go to show how each individual piece of PEP works together and is important, for each other. So I had a client that was working with Rachel Garland over at Community Legal Services, and she had gotten a continuation her first time over at court, and came in to clarify to see me thanks to the PEP program. Upon reviewing her pay stubs, we found that over half of her paycheck was being taken out with deductions that she didn't even understand or recognize that were being deducted. Which, they were completely unnecessary. So we were able to, give her a list of things to get in contact with her HR department about having those deductions removed. Ended up that her budget would work out to get into a $50 a month agreement. Doesn't sound like a ton, but the courts were able to agree to that. The court and landlord and her were able to agree to that. And now she is still in her house on an agreement for $50 a month, where, if I wasn't able to look at her pay stubs with her and kind of review a budget, who knows where she would be at this point.
Yeah, I think that's super critical to point to, that we are able to provide or look at things from a perspective that tenants or clients wouldn't typically look at, because we are trained in that way. And as we wrap, I kind of want to thank all of our panelists for coming on with us today, sharing your various areas of expertise and what it is you do as a part of the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project. And there are a few points worth driving home. I'll start with what Liz said. Philadelphia is a city of renters. Predominantly, most people in Philadelphia are not homeowners anymore. They are renting housing in some way, shape, or form. And as the economy continues to change and this crisis forces us to be home, it becomes more and more important that Philadelphians have access to stable housing, not just right now, but in the future. Children are at home, they're learning in that way. Vulnerable households, such as Jacob's clients, people on oxygen who are otherwise have nowhere to go and are more vulnerable to COVID-19, also need to be protected. So as a general plea, we encourage tenants who have either been previously served through the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project in some way, shape, or form, or through our partner agencies to reach out to your local city council members, to the mayor's office, to everyone who's involved in the budget crisis, and just let them know how important it is for you to be able to maintain your housing and how vital it is that when you walk into the space of municipal court for a landlord-tenant matter, that you feel supported and that there are agencies there available to support you and guide you in defending your rights. Of course, there's always the option to mediate before you go to court. I know that Good Shepherd and other agencies such as Turn are involved in pre-filing mediation, and that's information that you can have access to because all of our partners are able to share with you at different points. So if you are a tenant, if you are just a citizen listening in on this call, we encourage you to reach out to City Council and the Mayor's office and encourage them to keep the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project and fully fund it. At this point, I would like to thank both Sherry, Tyler, Lex, Liz, Jacob, and Kay for joining us today. In the future, we might have you all back individually so that we can get more in depth into the work that your various agencies are doing for vulnerable populations across the city of Philadelphia. But thank you for being here today. And we are so happy that you took the time to share both the work that you were doing and to help us promote and discuss the housing issues that are affecting tenants across Philadelphia. So thank you all for being here.